you've talked about the kind of data that you need to get from the client and from the customer. Can we also look at the kind of data that you need to get about the threats and the risks and the problems? As our first panel talked about, this is very fast moving. How do you take the things that Charles and Diana and Simen were talking about and turn that into actionable intelligence that you can feed into the system?
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean...
Sorry, go ahead, Grant.
I think it's a combination of a few different things. There is obviously more tactical data coming in every day that you have to be able to react to. So things like global vulnerabilities, global breaches, where you need to move very quickly and be able to hunt for those to detect them. Then it's about having a process in place that enables that transfer of information from research to action to actually then output of how many customers are affected. And also giving the visibility if we haven't found anything, that assurance. And I think that's interesting in the poll with the detection coverage being important. How do you prove that? And I think there's a lot more work being done alongside just actual detection techniques to then also be able to continuously test those techniques to demonstrate them. Alignment to the MITRE ATT&CK framework is becoming more and more important for many organizations to say, look, this is how covered we are, down to a much more granular level. I think also there's more strategic ways to use intelligence data. If we see, for example, from data, one example we have recently is, we've seen certain attacker infrastructure being used more and more commonly, in a large percentage of the ransomware cases that we've responded to with data from our CSIRT team, and taking those kind of data points and looking at, okay, can we actually find the type of attacker infrastructure, profile that? And one of the exercises we've done recently is to start to profile certain types of attacker infrastructure, almost to recognize the fingerprints of that infrastructure on the internet and try and identify that, even if we don't know which group is responsible, for example, to at least be able to very early in the life cycle understand, does it look like any of our customers are communicating with this attacker infrastructure? And the more that we can be proactive and use that intelligence and those learnings to actually move much closer to the start of the threat life cycle and the attack chain, then the better.
So Grant, staying with you, could that be things like, if they're using a particular server, where is that server registered? Who's it registered with? Is that the kind of information you're talking about, those fingerprints?
In some senses, but also that information can change very quickly. So it's more about the behavior, researching, the unique things that we see. If we look at Cobalt Strike, for example, a very common tool that's being used now as a whole software package for attackers, and the command and control service that communicates out to on the internet, then we've been able to recognize, I think, over 25 characteristics now of what that looks like. So to be able to identify not just one characteristic, because you're going to get a lot of false positives when you're dealing with profiling the whole of the internet, but to recognize multiple characteristics, to take that large set of data and slowly bring that down to, right, we can confidently say we believe that this is a piece of attacker infrastructure, and if we see any communications to it, we should look into that with a high severity.
Interesting.